The spirit of innovation is deeply ingrained in America, and Google is helping Americans innovate in ways both big and small. From improving emergency response times to protecting against cyber attacks, local, state, and federal governments are innovating with Google AI. This is a new era of American innovation. Find out more at g.co/American innovation.
Why does the United States pay higher drug prices than other countries? Because America's the only country in the world where 340B hospitals mark up drug prices and PBM middlemen charge billions in hidden fees. Meanwhile, Americans subsidize the research and development for new cures. Other countries benefit, but don't pay their fair share. Crack down on the middlemen. End the free riding. Lower drug prices. Go to balancethescales.org to learn more. Paid for by Pharma.
Talking Podcast. I'm David Campbell, your host. Terry Pluto is here. It's a busy week in sports, Terry. We have a lot to go through, and I have a surprise for you. One of our smart listeners, they're all smart, but one of them sent in a Tom Hamilton poem that he has written.
Well,
and I really love it. So
okay.
I wanted to read it on the podcast. So
sure.
So let's start with the Guardians. There's a lot to talk about here. They are playing winning baseball again. They're still pretty far out in the division race. I didn't check the standings today, but they were 11 out before last night's game, and they're making a little ground up in the wild card. But let's start with José Ramírez, Terry, and we talk about this a lot. This guy, he's going to be a Hall of Famer down the road, but we do need to pause and appreciate this guy for what he is doing. And last night, he recorded another 2020 season. He is tied with Carlos Beltran and Eric Davis for the third most all-time 2020 seasons, which is 20 homers, 20 steals, behind Bobby Abreu, who has 9. Barry Bonds has 10, and Bobby Bonds has 10. And that was Jose's 5th 2020 and his 7th overall. So talk about Jose for a minute, because I know you've just been a huge fan of his from day one.
The stolen base thing may be the most amazing part of this, and that's difficult to because he hits all these home runs. But just look at him. Does this look like a guy? I mean, he doesn't just steal 20. I mean, he'll steal 30 some. I know one of his goals is to steal 40 in a season. And the pounding it takes on your body, because the way he slides head first in that, and that's part of like over the All-Star break where he said he was feeling beat up, and that is because of all the sliding in that. That to me is remarkable. Also, just 10 years from now when he's retired, I assume maybe he's playing to 42. I don't know. But anyway, whenever he retires, even if you would see him now on the street, you would not believe this guy's a major league player, much less a Hall of Famer. Just look at him physically. All the way, this is just to underline what an amazing, not just athlete he is, but driven athlete, smart athlete. Terry Francona always said he's perhaps the smartest player he's ever been around. That's why he could steal all those bases. I mean, Jose's got some speed, but it's not like it's blinding speed. He's not Kenny Lofton speed or anything of that sort. But the way he reads pitchers, the way he situations, is not just the stolen bases, but taking extra bases. Then you turn around. How about the catch he made at the end of the game last night? It's over his shoulder. It looked like Omar. That was,
and it wasn't just an over-the-shoulder catch. He had to bend his route to the ball like a banana at the end. It was an incredibly hard catch.
And just reading it that way, and then you turn around. The power he's developed, the way he's been able to sustain this year after year. What's he play? 150 some games every single year. I mean, they can't convince him to sit out. If not, they have to DH him. He's an above average third baseman. You watch him down the corner of the dugout. Now he's got his little cadre of guys. He's got Angel Martinez there and a few others, and they're looking at the iPads. And it's not like they're just sitting there telling stories. You could tell. I mean, Jose's running a little clinic. And you also could tell, too, sometimes when somebody messes something up fundamentally, how he's not very happy about it at all. He's the whole package. We're now 4 years into the contract he signed in 2022. So that's 7 years, 3 more years to go. And by the way, once in a while I get, well, maybe they'll trade him. He has a no trade clause. So first of all, they're not trading him. Secondly, he doesn't want to go anywhere. I mean, I guess you never know. Maybe 2 years from now, he decides he wants to play somewhere else. He walks into a room and asks for a trade. That's like the only way this happens. And then when you think about his career, he was a second baseman primarily in the minors, because when I first saw him was in a he was playing in Class A ball. He just got done at Lake County, and this is a spring training game, and Lindor was the shortstop. This is when they brought guys up from minor league camp, and here came Jose up. And I'm sitting there with Mark Shapiro, who was the team's president at the time, and we're just watching this. And remember, they both played A ball. I knew who Lindor was, first round pick, and watching this game, and Jose gets a base hit. He steals a base, makes a nice pivot and a double play. I mean, Lindor's talent just always stood out. You could just tell. And I'm going to Shapiro. Who is the little kid at second base? Oh, that's Jose Ramirez. And I'm like, well, whatever. It could have been Joe Blow. I don't know. And he said, look at his stats. He had hit like 330 or something at Class A at Lake County. He goes, he's going to be a big leaguer. He's a good player. So that was my thing. So I jumped on him. I had no idea he was going to be a Hall of Famer, but he was just it's like when Roberta saw Stephen Kwan, and I did too. Roberta was there. He was a ball player. The stolen base, the reading of the ball, off the bat in the field, all that stuff. And to see what he's done. So he was a second baseman. Then he became a shortstop for a while. Then he went to the outfield. In 2016, he was playing some left field. Then he played a little at third. And then finally, he was moving around, and he came in before the 2017 season, I believe it was. And he said to Terry Francona, I'll play anywhere you want, but can you just pick one position? And they picked third. And, so if you think about when he asked for stuff, it's like, after I become an all-star, I can at least have one position. And then it's like, I want to stay in Cleveland, so I'll sign this contract, but give me a no trade. I mean, this is like totally unprecedented of anything I've ever seen in Cleveland sports.
Yeah.
No, it just doesn't. He doesn't care what his agent said. He wanted to make sure that, things are set. And so basically his contract that he signed was 7 years, $141 million. And his idea was that he could play here, and basically people leave him alone. If he wants to talk to the media, fine. He doesn't want to talk to the media. He doesn't want to do commercials. He doesn't, somebody's interviewed. He wants Andre not to do it. I don't care. Once in a while, I hear some people in the media grumbling, like, this guy has earned it. Now, it's not like he's taking advantage and not working hard, or he has to have 5 suites on the road. No, he just doesn't want to be bothered by some stuff. And did you see the video of his little daughter throwing the first pitch to Jose? It really it was like the ultimate in cuteness. If you haven't seen it, Google it, you'll find it. And he can just say, proud papa out there. And he does have to work with his girl's arm a little bit. She had some control problems, but it was so much fun to see that.
They'll put her in the Guardians pitching factory, and she'll be fine.
Really, it was a classic. Like, it's something you would expect from Jose. You just did, with the little girl and that, and she had a cute ribbon in her hair, and I just can't go on enough. He is the best Cleveland baseball player I have personally seen. Now, I don't go back to True Speaker, or it's hard to evaluate. How do you compare Bob Feller to somebody, But in terms of all-around players, Nap Lajoie was a great one, back in the day. But Albert Bell is a great hitter. Kenny Lofton's a great center fielder, and that Omar was a tremendous shortstop. Manny Ramirez could really hit. All around, do everything ball player. Jose's the best. Period.
All he wants is to win. That's all he wants. So
and he plays winning baseball. And the switch hitting, and you could just tell how driven he is. Sometimes when he makes it out or whatever, he goes back, and it's like not like he's breaking the dugout. But the close up on his face, he's like seething inside. Like, how stupid can I be to swing at that pitch? How did I not know that? And it's always fun, Andre Knott, they have that thing. Well, what kind of pitch did you hit? Home run pitch? Home run. There's a cuteness, innocence about it. but never underestimate what a hard-driving, hard-working, smart ball player he is.
Yeah, well put, Terry. I mentioned how smart our listeners are, and one thing I love about them is they're always putting things together that like you and I probably don't think about.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have one here from Darren Branham about Jose, and he says, "Hey Terry, Jose has a legit chance at 400 homers, stolen bases, and doubles
Jeez.
in his career. Currently, only one person in MLB history has done it. What are your thoughts?" So that's Barry Bonds, right? Like I looked him up: 601 doubles, 762 homers, and 514 stolen bases. And you can argue about how he acquired those numbers,
Right.
but
It is
they are
amazing
there.
to me that
So,
the stolen bases. I never think about Barry like that.
oh yeah, he was built so differently in his younger days and
Yeah.
fast.
Mm-hmm.
But Jose right now, I think I added in last night's game, but he's got 382 doubles, 275 homers, and 272 steals. So if he does 20 steals, the steals might be he's got 18 doubles left to hit 400, right? Because he's got 382. The steals
Yeah.
might be easier than the home runs. So he would need 125 more homers. And what Jose's going to be 33
Yeah.
on September 17th. So I don't know, Terry, what do you think if he hits 20 homers a year for the next 6 years? He'd be right there. Am I doing that right? 20 to 25 home runs for?
I
What do
think
you think?
25 to 30 is where you want to go with that. It's hard to know. I mean, some people look at that body and go, well, that body's not going to play real long. Well, that body's played a long time already. And a guy who was built like him, but he was an outfielder and played a long time, Hall of Famer, was Kirby Puckett. He played kind of the same way, a lot of doubles, homers. He was a great outfielder. I'm not putting any limits on him. I give up on this because even though I had high expectations, like Roberta has Stephen Kwan, I've got Jose as mine. I also have Owen Miller and a bunch of bust outs too. But it's to say, though, that this guy won't become 400 across that spectrum. Maybe. And the other thing that's interesting about him is he is very interested in having all these Cleveland baseball records. That's, by the way, they keep putting it on the screen. You notice that, where he is compared to Hal Trotsky or whatever. He just passed Earl Averill. He wants all of those records. I've been told that by several people close to him. And Chris Antonetti told me that was part of when he signed that. He wants to be the greatest Cleveland ball player. I've never heard that from anybody either.
Oh yeah, it doesn't seem like anybody cares about that, sticking with one team forever and being the best ever. So he's just a different cat, man. He really is. You mentioned Kirby Puckett. I just looked it up real fast, Terry. He stopped playing. He played all his career with the Twins, right?
Right.
And he stopped. His last year was 1995 when he was 35, and that was 12 years. But the thing, I don't know why I was thinking about Andre Dawson the other day, who had an amazing career. But toward the end of his career, he said, "I don't want to play for any team that has artificial turf." And Kirby Puckett played pretty much his entire career.
The old Metrodome,
the old Metrodome on artificial turf. And I know what a lot of people say, it doesn't matter, but like that stuff is not good for your knees and hips and ankles. And Jose does have the benefit of playing for a team with a grass field. There aren't many turf teams left, I don't think, but that's going to serve him well in terms of longevity, I think.
He also has a disadvantage of playing where it's like 40 degrees all the time for the first 6 weeks of the season too.
That's true.
That whereas like when you're playing in Arizona or somewhere like that, Houston, I mean, those things, life's a lot easier.
Yep.
I know Michael Bradley. Boy, Milton Bradley, there's an old one. 5-tool player, that's who we got here. I remember that Charlie Manuel, when they had Milton Bradley, who was a troubled outfitter they brought in, who supposedly was this great prospect, a 5-tool player. And Charlie Manuel was the manager. And Milton had done not hustled to first base or something, and Charlie was mad at him. And he goes, 5-tool player, he must have lost 2 or 3 of them tools on the way to the ballpark. I only see 1 or 2 right now. But Michael Bradley, Brantley, I know when he went to Houston, with the weather there, and because he had shoulders that were always a problem. That helped him. Because if you start getting bursitis, tendonitis, and those things, anybody will tell you the cold weather's rough around them.
Well, thanks for that question. Really interesting thing to think about there from Darren Brand, one of our listeners. So I wanted to ask you, Terry, some Guardians fans are kind of a little bothered that Stephen Kwan got an injection in his wrist on Wednesday and played in the All-Star game last week. And Jose was voted a starter at third base and skipped the game because he was banged up. He'd been hitting the forearm and with pitches, and he was just banged up, and he was like, I just need to rest because I got to be ready for the second half. Some people were doing a little comparing between Stephen Kwan and Jose, like, why didn't Kwan sit out? Why didn't he get the injection earlier? What did you think about all that?
I think it's when you talk about those two guys, the way they are, the way they conduct themselves, it's an individual decision. If Jose says he needed a few days off, he needed a few days off, even though it didn't look like it was player of the week running up into that. And if Kwan, I understand Kwan, I remember interviewing him at length. This is like right when he's on the verge of making the team. So that would have been 2022. And talking about his family, Oregon State's a baseball power. His real sense of baseball history and what it meant. And he told me, and I remember another time in an interview he mentions, he goes, I have to fight the imposter syndrome. I'm like, there. He goes, like, I was told so often that you'll never make it. He mentioned how until Oregon State came up to him right at the end of his senior year in high school, whenever that was, that he was all set to go to a local junior college. He's from Northern California. And he said, when I told the junior college coach, no, I'm going to go to Oregon State, he says, oh, don't worry, you'll be back. You'll never make it there. So he's dealt with a lot of that, kind of like Jose, too. Jose signed for $50,000 out of the Dominican Republic, which sounds like a fair amount of money for Dominican. But basically, that's the bottom bonus they can give somebody. And Cleveland was his only offer. And Oregon State was his only offer. And then, so I believe to Kwan being around the All-Stars in this, he's down deep. I think he still fights a little bit of the imposter syndrome. It's just something that, you hear those, we can get in, this is almost like a faith kind of stuff, where those negative voices, we live in an era of emotional and spiritual battles, and whatever job we have, our insecurities could come up, whatever. And so when he goes to that, I think it just lift him up. And he's another guy. He plays all the time too, pretty much. So I'm not going to second guess either one of these guys.
Yeah, and I think the Guardians did it right, letting each guy make their own decision.
Yeah.
But you're right about Kwan. That's an interesting thing you bring up, Terry. I'm reading this, The Artist's Way, which is that famous book about our artistic growth and everything. And she talks about Julia Cameron is the author. I couldn't remember her name, but she talks about these voices in your head that pop up. And for Stephen Kwan, like he respects that he's not going to the All-Star game because he wants endorsements or wants to have his face on TV for 2 straight days. Like he was going, and here's the quote. He said, I wanted to play with the best in the world.
Yeah.
Like that was pretty much it. Like that meant a lot to him, more than the hoopla and the festivities. And so he just wanted to be there and shag some balls and be with the best in the world because he had earned that right. So, and then he came back and started playing like Stephen Kwan again. So everything's fine, right?
I'm just not going to go down the road on these guys and who's hurt and who's not. And all I know is they both play a lot of games. They know their body. They're going to be ready. If they're not playing in August or September, it's because something is really bad. That's all I know about that with them.
Yeah. It is something, though, that somebody as accomplished as Stephen Kwan.
Yeah.
I mean, Julia Cameron writes about that. Like everybody has these voices that's like wired into your part of your brain where it just jumps up and says, you can't do this, you can't do that. You had a teacher or a coach who told you were no good, and you just have to overcome that. So I get it.
It's a classic thing of, I don't know how they come up with these stats, and I'm always a bit leery of it. It's like, but they'll say like, you need 10 positive reinforcements for every negative one you hear. Now, I don't know. I do know this. We could look at emails or texts from people. And if you get one negative one, it really does kind of blot out some positive feedback that you just got pretty quickly. And you don't even consider the source or anything sometimes. And baseball too, I remember we were talking one time with Terry Francona, and he said one of the hardest things is we always say he just needs to get his confidence back. He just needs more confidence. He goes, but how do you get confidence? You have success. But if your confidence is shot, how do you have success? So then your confidence is shot and you're struggling and you have even less
It
confidence.
cycles
He goes,
around.
it
Well, yeah,
really is. He goes,
yeah.
suddenly something has to happen where you just break through it. Um, it isn't a chicken or egg thing. No, you really need some success actually to build the confidence. That's what he came up with. He goes, you simply have to go out and have a good game or two. And when you're not hitting, even if you're hitting the ball hard, nobody wants to hear, yeah, don't worry, you're hitting the ball hard. It's like, no, I need something to fall in. And he says sometimes that's why they talk about the broken bat, the squibber down
Oh,
the line
yeah.
that
It's
you
right
beat
out
on.
of Bull
It's
Durham.
like,
You need a
yeah, it
bleeder, a
really is.
blooper, a
Finally,
Texas leaguer.
something went my way, and
Yeah.
where I really believe no sport, maybe golf would be another one because it's so individual. You line up with a putt or whatever. But like baseball or that, where you kind of on your own and you wait for another opportunity. I mean, you pop up and you got to wait an hour to bat again sometimes in a game. It's like you just keep thinking about that. That's why DHing is so hard for younger players because they can't even go in the field and distract themselves. By the way, is it interesting to me to see how Manzardo is bounced out of his funk there for a while and he's hitting again.
Well, and Hoynesy wrote about this the other day about, and again, Terry, we talk about
Yeah,
this sometimes. These athletes, man, they have stuff going on in their personal lives. Kyle Manzardo's mom had a heart transplant,
yeah.
and he had to go home to Idaho to be there for that. And that's you're going up to bat, and you got that on your mind. Like it's very hard to focus on hitting a 99-mile-an-hour fastball when you're thinking about your mom back home and whether she's going to be okay. I mean, that's really something. So, and great news. It sounds like it's all gone really well, and she's recovering great. But
Because they were waiting for the donor to come in.
yeah,
Roberta's sister, Vicky, we waited, I remember, well over a year for her to get a kidney transplant. In fact, for a while, I matched as a donor, but they put me through the process and they wiped me out because of a combination of age and condition of my kidneys, which were
hmm.
at that point just not, they wanted them almost pristine. And so that was a bummer. I remember the letdown for our family with that. And so I get where he's coming from. Now, other guys will tell you the only place they're able to block out the worry is on the field. So everybody, we were talking about the voices in their head, wire differently. Like when I get out there, I'm just able to focus on the game itself. I'm in the locker room where guys are talking about the game and that. It's when I walk out and I try to go to bed at night and stare at the ceiling, then I'm going over, will the donor finally come? So it's all different things. And I think a lot of us listening to this, maybe you're not ball players, but whatever we do in life, we could realize. I once heard a column that said, why work is easier than real life. And that's because a lot of us know how work works. Assuming we're feeling reasonably confident about it, whether you're going at Walmart, what we do, whatever it is. Whereas when you're real life, you don't know, stuff comes at you out of nowhere. Now, I'm not talking about the person who works in the emergency room. That's a whole other deal. But kind of the quote average jobs. I mean, generally, I know I look at my week, how my week's going to go. And okay, if somebody gets traded or whatever, it's still part of. I mean, I've written 12,000 trades. I know what to do. But like when Roberta we're waiting for Vicky, is she going to get the transplant? Then I'm going through all the ordeal of the testing, and I'm getting mad because I could tell on this one thing, I got a feeling this isn't going how they want it to go. Feeling helpless with that. I understand all that. Fortunately, she did get a donor, and that was 11 years ago, and so
Huh.
she's doing well with that.
Oh, excellent. Well, two good news health stories there. But yeah, just to going back to Manzardo, Terry, like you're right about the DHing too.
Yeah,
Like he's not
you
he's
just
not in
sit
the
there.
field, so he sits there for an hour, and his mom is going through this, and his family, and
Hmm.
and so it can't be easy for anybody. So
But I'm
it's good to
really
see him back
pleased to
hitting.
see, and
Yeah.
Rick Manning was making good points because we were talking about this on the podcast, and I never heard anybody else mention it much other than I was saying, this guy's trying to pull everything, hit the ball to left center. And then Rick Manning got on that thing too. And you could see now he's just better with that. He's not trying to jack everything out of the park. By the way, you might as well go there, chase the water. Now it's the wrist thing, and he's going to the doctor again, and who knows. And my guy Juan Burrito, who never was hurt until this year, you know, breaks his thumb, and now it's a hamstring where quote he'll be out weeks unquote. So that was one of my scenarios and how the season gets saved. Kind of the cavalry comes up from Columbus. Nope, not with those guys.
Yeah, it's like everything that could have gone wrong for the Guardians has kind of gone wrong. Like
Yeah.
the Bieber having a setback. He's pitching tonight. Actually, we're taping this on Tuesday afternoon. He's pitching
Mm-hmm.
for the Captains tonight, so he hasn't been back when they hope. So, we've been talking this summer, Terry, about the young guys needing to step up, and we probably should talk about Angel Martinez a little
Yeah.
bit. I mean, here's one guy who has really. There's a headline up today that Hoynesy and Joe Noga covered the game last night, but they were talking to Stephen Vogt about how they're watching Angel Martinez kind of mature and grow
Mm-hmm.
into a major league player right before their eyes. So I think he has 7 doubles in his last 11 games and 4 homers.
Yeah.
And that's one of the hottest guys in baseball right there. But what are you seeing from Angel Martinez? You think he can keep this up? And this is the kind of thing that needs to happen for them to stay in the wild card conversation, right?
Well, other teams find hitters like this. They bring a guy up, it blossoms. Sometimes they're hitters that Cleveland gave up. I mean, just being real about it. Not this spring, but the previous spring training, um, because the last 2 springs, because of my mom Melva's illness and then later her death, I didn't go. Tom Hamilton told me early on, this is the spring of 24, he goes, Martinez is going to be a player. And he doesn't say that a lot. He goes, I don't know when, but he moves like an athlete. He's going to get bigger and stronger. I think he'll hit for some power. He's going to be a player. And you could see, I mean, he might answer the center field question, which would be really nice to get Quan in left and him in center. And then you get, perpetual search for a right fielder. But he looks like it. He just looks like a player.
Yeah, and Stephen Vogt was talking about, in particular, one of his left-handed at-bats against the A's over the weekend and how he's just feeling it from both sides right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that he said that was one of the favorite at-bats that he's ever seen Martinez
Yeah.
take, which is a good sign for the Guardians. So,
And he's with Jose a lot down at the end of that dugout, too. And you could see them. I remember one time Jose's pointing at something on the iPad. And you get whatever Martinez said, Jose wasn't buying. He's shaking his head, going, no, no. And he points again at whatever it was. I'm sure it was one of Martinez's at bat. No, no, no. Don't even try telling me that. But this is the classic thing of what you want, where you have a coach could tell him that, but Jose Martinez tells him that. Jose tells Martinez that. Well, then that gets you like it. It's like it came from on high.
all right, anything else on the Guardians, Terry? I don't know.
I would
Rocchio's
just
back,
say
and
this. I wrote a column
yep.
about this Luis Ortiz thing. This sounds really bad to me. I mean, this guy could end up being banned for life. And because believe me, I know this last thing Major League Baseball wanted was this investigation to go on. They would have loved to look at this thing and said, oh, it's an AI glitch or whatever. There's nothing there and wipe it out, the first 3 weeks. The fact they extended it to the end of August, there's something going on there and it's not good. I forgot the name of the infielder for the Pirates that last year was the only one that, where the IDFine was betting on baseball and the Pirates, I think, and he was even hurt on that. He bet on several games of the Pirates. Well, they banned him for life. So we'll see what goes on with Ortiz, but I know that's that. And of course, Slade Ciccone. I want to say this the other day. Ciccone's pitching, and he gives up 3 runs in 8 innings. I guess he was at 90 pitches or something. And I'm like, declare victory and go home. Remember, the score is like 8-3. And Vogt runs him out there for the 9th. And I know he's trying to get him a complete game. But Vogt also didn't have anybody warming up in the bullpen. And remember, it's like 10 pitches, and next thing you know, guys hit like 3 doubles in a row or something like that.
Right.
And he finally takes him out. But it's like by the time that game is over, he got hung with 6 earned runs. And I'm not saying it's all about protecting a guy's ERA, but when he gives you 8 innings like that, this is really, you're still building up his confidence. I mean, here's a guy who had a 6 ERA at Arizona last year, and he's coming into his own. I don't think it's the end of the world, but I just sort of wondered. I just found it odd.
Well, Stephen Vogt is known as a player's manager,
Mhm.
kind of like Tito was, right? And if you read, Ciccone talked about he wants to have a complete game. Like that is important to him, right? So if you decide you want to give him that opportunity, but then you have guys warming up in the bullpen, like I don't know what I don't know what else Vogt could have done. Did you want him to have somebody warming up?
My thing, you just tell him going out there, and we're gonna, the other problem is this: he clearly was overthrowing in the 9th inning, David.
He wanted it.
Yeah, overthrowing is a good way to get hurt.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I got Tommy John syndrome shock. I mean, how many starters do you need on the DL?
No, I get it. So
Yeah,
the team winning and keeping the staff healthy is number one on
and
the
then you say,
Terry list, and that should have been paramount.
You just tell Ciccone, this one's on me. Be pissed off at me. Just tell him that. That's all.
Yeah, I'm the manager.
I love you.
No, I get it. I'm just to do what he did. Like there were a few ways to go about it, and you would have just rather seen him just shut down after 8.
Shut him down after 8.
Take the victory.
A lot of times, a good
thing
in life is punt the flag, declare victory, and go home.
Yeah,
and that's the way to go. And say, I need you. We got a lot of big games coming, and you're a big part of what we. Frankly, got a big part of what we don't want to have our trees anymore either. And you're a big part of what we have. That trade's going to look very interesting by the time it's over, because Naylor is being offered around baseball by Arizona. We'll see if he gets traded, Josh Naylor. And, they have Ciccone under control for like 5 or 6 years. I forgot what, forever, basically, in terms of baseball life. And they also used the pick on this guy, Will Heinens, a high school pitcher out of Ontario. We'll see how that works out. But remember, they did get a draft pick in it. And so that's an interesting thing. So clearly Arizona does not want to commit long-term to Josh Naylor either. In the same way Cleveland is, or there wouldn't be so many of these rumors out there.
All right. Well, that is our Guardian segment. You want to take a break here?
Yes.
Seems like a good time. All right, let's do that. When we come back, we have a listener question about the Browns, Terry, who open training camp tomorrow on Wednesday the 23rd. Quarterback derby's going on, but we have a listener who's asking, does it really matter who's playing quarterback? So I want to get your take on that. We'll get into that and more, including the Tom Hamilton poem, which I really like, when we come back on Terry's Talking.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
After Zoomies at the dog park, it's time for Drive Up at Target. In goes a big bag of kibble and one squeaky chicken toy for the good boy. Drive Up that's ready when you are. Only in the Target app. Just tap Target.
Hey, we're back on Terry's Talking. I mentioned our listener emails earlier. We have the best listeners. If you have a thought, a comment, a question, a poem, send it in to sports@cleveland.com. Put Terry's Talking on the subject line. Terry, we have a lot of really good emails that I've not been able to get into the podcast yet because we wanted to make sure we spend some time with the Tom Hamilton remembrances from fans of his career so far. So I'm going to get those rounded up. If you've sent something in, I'm going to try and be in touch with you, and we'll try and get some of those on upcoming weeks. So, all right, let's talk a little Browns here, Terry. I think you're probably concerned about the running game at this point, right, with the Quinshon Judkins legal situation as it is. What are you seeing about the Browns running game? Are you worried about it? Do you think they need to change their approach, change their personnel? What do you think?
Well, this is a huge loss, this thing with Junkins, regardless of which way it goes. I mean, a safe bet is he's at least going to end up on that, what the commissioner's exempt list, where you're paid, but you're not able to play till they figure out where the legal situation goes. I mean, he's a part of the trade that they made with Jacksonville. Part of it was that they had targeted him for a high second-round pick, and so they were able to have their own pick and plus add this one, and figuring we're going to take this guy or someone like this guy to be the anchor of the running game. And that anchor is not there. So you have Dylan Sampson. He did lead the SEC in rushing, but he's not that power back. Jerome Ford is your other option. Same thing, more of a flashback than that power back. They want to get returned to having, a guy that could grind it out. I mean, Chubb was the ultimate thing because he had the breakaway speed and everything else, but he was also so tough. And they don't have that. And I'm not sure Pierre Strong is their other running back. I don't know what to make of him. And so those are 3 backs, and they want to run the ball more. And it really helps when you have a guy back there with all the play action they do that you're able to fake it to him, and the defense will pay attention.
So I'm trying to think, if I'm the coaching staff, how I try to solve this problem.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, Terry. They're not going to be able to be the physical running team that they wanted to be if he's not there. I think that's going to be gone. And what I think they're going to have to do is really lean on David Njoku and Harold Fannin Jr.
Yeah.
And you're going to see, I think, instead of handing off to Jerome Ford on 3rd and 3, they might run a little slip screen to one of the tight ends or a quick out. I think the tight ends are going to see their touches go up on key downs when they normally would have handed it to Quinshon Judkins. I think they have to go that route because those are probably, they've got 3 good weapons right now on offense. If you give Fannin the benefit of the doubt being a rookie, but we've seen his highlights. If you have Njoku, Jerry Jeudy, and Fannin, those are your 3 best offensive weapons right now, and those 3 guys have to get a lot of touches. So I think that's going to be how they adjust. I think that has to go that way. But we'll see.
And when you look at it, Njoku didn't have a good year last year, but the passing game, everything was all messed up last year. I don't know what to make of all that, other than it was a mess. That hopefully will return to prominence for the tight ends with this. The running game, you still need to be able to have guys that can get you some yards and not just break loose. Like Ford will get you nothing, then he cuts loose for 15 yards. But you want something to those 3 tough yards that you mentioned. And also, I just believe if you're going to run a lot of play action, which they are, the running back must be worthy of some respect for an opposing defensive coordinator.
Or they're just going to drop.
Yeah.
Cover. Yeah.
They don't care. Fine, run it. Well, I mean, the classic story was for me was I forgot which year what Chris Palmer was the coach. Doesn't matter. First or second year expansion Browns. And I said something about play action passes to Chris. This is back when Couch was just taking a terrible beating. And Palmer said to me, because we were pretty good friends, I used to call him late at night. Because I knew he'd be in his office still staring at the same awful game film over and over. And he says, well, you sound like my wife. I said, where? He goes, she said, well, yeah, that play action pass, that would help. And he says, my running back right now, because all these guys are hurt, is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That's the running back, not the center. Now, you're an opposing defensive coordinator, and I faked the ball to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You know what you're saying? Fine, give it to him. He's not going anywhere anyway. Don't write that. He said, but I'm teaching you how to think. He goes, a play action is really only good if the back is at least scares somebody a little bit.
Yeah, that's going to be their challenge.
And it stuck with me, though, David. That was long. So that would have been 99 or whenever that was.
All right. Well, we do have a letter. The quarterback derby is going to be the story of training camp until it's settled. I mentioned this before the break, but we have a letter here, an email from Stan Sack. Stan is from Newcastle, Pennsylvania. He says, "Hey, Terry, I enjoy your podcast and columns and have for years. I'm glad you're still at it. I agree there is no question that Joe Flacco should be the game one starter for the Browns. My question for you is, with Pro Football Focus ranking the Browns receivers dead last as a group in the NFL, the running backs 29th, and the offensive line at best mediocre, does it really matter who's at quarterback for the orange helmets? It just doesn't seem like the tools are there. And now with Judkins likely to miss significant time, it just doesn't seem like this is an offense going anywhere. What are your thoughts?"
Well, that's pretty grim.
It really is.
With the argument that it doesn't matter, of course it matters. Does it matter in terms of getting to the playoffs or anything else? I don't know. Does it matter in terms of trying to put a watchable product on the field? Remember, there's supposed to be some entertainment value to this. You want your team to look like a professional team. It does. And when you look at this thing, now, when you talk to the Browns, they will tell you, you brought up the tight ends, that they put the tight ends and the receivers sort of in the same category, that these are just guys we're going to throw the ball to. And yeah, we'd like to have another, see Jamari Thrash or somebody like that emerge, Tillman as a receiver besides Jerry Jeudy. But the tight ends are a big factor, what we're doing. The running backs, I don't know why they ranked them 29th before Judkins, but I guess maybe maybe this is assuming Judkins is going to be out. I could see that. But you still want an offense just to look professional. And also you want to find somebody that can play. And I mean, my whole theory is I would go with Flacco early, but if you want to play Pickett, I don't care. Whichever veteran for those first 6 games, opponents 71 and 41, see how it goes. And then you can take it from there. You want to play one of the kids or something, that's fine too. But just going out there to put a rookie out, do the Deshaun Kaiser route, remember that? Oh, jeez. I mean, and you also have veterans on your team. I mean, guys are playing for contracts and everything else. And you want them to believe that the quarterback can at least do something. So it does matter. And I'm curious to see how this goes. I love the fact that Kevin Stefanski, and I've been told this from as high up a place as you can, it's Kevin's choice. Whoever starts is purely on Kevin. Nobody's telling him that we have no agenda here. It's not fix this guy. Because if you think about it, when he came in, he was brought in to fix Baker Mayfield. So not that he was going to bench him anyway, but that was job one. So Baker was there 2 years. And then what happened is now they go all in on Watson. Even though Watson's going to be suspended, all this stuff, then it's your job is to fix Deshaun Watson because he's broken. So that takes up years 22 and 23. So now you go to and 24, 3 years of Watson. So this is the first time it's like, Kevin, I don't care who plays quarterback right now. Pick any one of the 4. In my newsletter, I wrote about this. That's coming out tomorrow. And I went through and added up the combined salaries on the cap, what counts on the cap with Flacco and with Pickett and the 2 rookies. David Campbell, how much do they add up to?
I'm going to say $4.2 million.
No, 7.6. So it's a little
more.
more.
I was way low.
They gave Joe and Pickett a couple million each. But 7.6, whereas Watson still counts 36 or whatever. Watson counts 82 next year, but they'll do something else with that. But the point is that, fine, whoever you want to play him. And I like that. I think it gives Kevin the freedom to, as you were talking about, what's going to fit the offense you want to run, all that stuff.
I do think there's a little nuance here to Stan's question. Like, does it really matter who's a quarterback? Like, I think given the talent around the quarterback, it might not matter some weeks who's playing, because it's very hard to elevate an offense that doesn't have a lot of talent. So I think that might be what Stan is driving at in terms of week to week. It might not matter who's, it's going to be a struggle, right? But in the grand scheme, which is what you've been talking about, Terry, like the question of the quarterback, the Haslams want to see this regime. It's a reset, but they got to see progress. And at the end of this year, they've got to have some answers about who's the quarterback going to be. Is Judkins good enough to be a kind of a bell cow running back where you can give him the ball 20, 25 times a game? Like there needs to be some answers at the end of the season. So I think in that sense, it does matter who plays. And like you said, Terry, whether they look like they can play quarterback in the NFL for the Browns and be successful. So I guess
I
week
did
to week
mention
it might not matter,
yeah.
but in the big picture it might. Sorry, go ahead.
And I mentioned this to a couple top people at the Browns. I said, you guys realize you better win some games. And they I said, this 3-14 stuff, the owner's been busy. He's people are suing him. He's suing other people, downtown, Brook Park, Dome Stadium, all that's going on. I said, but they're not dealing with 3-14 or 5-11, 5-12. No, you got to put a product out there. You are in, as I mentioned before, the entertainment business, and they have to be better, or they're all going to be out of here, and we'll be starting all over again. We know how that goes. Then the new regime comes in, doesn't like what the stuff the old regime did, and that's
Cleans
always
house.
yeah. I mean, we've just watched that movie so many times. So that's why I'm pulling for just the fact that these guys make it work, and they go out there and put a team that win, I don't know, 7 games or more. I'm not making a prediction yet. I want to see what they look like, what some of the younger guys look like, just because I think it's important. I mean, the fans deserve something to watch on Sunday.
All right. I think that's it on the Browns. They do start training camp tomorrow, and we'll be watching the quarterbacks and some of the key dates. They'll be practicing against the Eagles right before that preseason game in August. That's the week of the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th of August, and we're hearing that it's going to be an important date in terms of who's going to start. So check cleveland.com/Browns today. You'll find a really good setup piece by Mary Kay Cabot about who's there, who isn't, give you a good update on David Njoku and a lot of other people in terms of who's going to be at camp and who isn't. Also, Dan Lobby has some predictions and other thoughts on camp, so check that out. All right, Terry, the Cavs wrapped up Summer League over the weekend. They beat the Golden State Warriors 82-71. They didn't make the playoffs there or anything, so that was just their last game. What did you take from Summer League? What do you think Cavs fans can kind of translate that might matter in the fall?
Well, I think when you look at how they played in the summer, things they are looking at, number one is we talked last week about Naquan Tomlin coming from really nowhere, down even playing high school in Harlem, journey through 2 junior colleges, Kansas State, and then Memphis State to the NBA, basically as a walk-on or whatever you want to call it, non-drafted. He looks like a legit player that you could put in the game, and so 6'9", he's got some ability to shoot, athleticism. So they found him. They were able to put him in a higher level than G League, because the summer league is higher than G League. It's not quite as high as the NBA, but it's better to look at. Secondly, I think even though he had some up and down performances, Tyson looked to me like he could help them as a small forward, big guard. He could help a little bit handling the ball, and he played well. Proctor was intriguing. He showed a little more as it went along, be able to handle the ball, go to the rim some, but especially he was good when he was, catch and shoot guy, and that's something they need. So those 3 things were all positives. I didn't see any other surprises. Tristan Enaruna had some good games and some others, but it's like, and I like Enaruna personally. I've written stories about him. He's a really good kid. He's smart. He just needs to be more aggressive on defense and the boards. I think he's skilled, but that's lacking a little bit for him. Otherwise, he's going to be playing a lot of G League or going to play in Europe. I mean, he's right of those guys that's right on the border of making the NBA. But he showed enough here where I think he played better here than he did in the G League. I was told that. He was with the main clause last year, the Boston G League team. I think he averaged 11 points. So he's making some progress, and I didn't see much else of anybody else of interest. But the big ones were, Tomlin is the huge one. because this guy who wasn't drafted, and if he could end up helping you, that'll be so important. And, Tyson continues to make progress, and Proctor's intriguing.
Yeah, I think this is where I saw Chris Fedor sent a text out to our Cavs subtext subscribers, and you can sign up if you want. Go to cleveland.com/Cavs, click on the blue bar at the top. But he said Tyson is sitting tonight. He's too good for summer league.
Yeah.
Which is a good problem to have, right? You sit him out because you don't want him. It's not worth his
the
time.
other thing they do, David, is some of these other guys are brought in there just to fill out the roster. And what you want to do is there'll be a game or two. You just kind of play a bunch of those guys so that when you talk to the agent, because remember, these guys are not only auditioning for other NBA teams, they're auditioning for European teams. European teams are all over the place there. You can make six figures over there depending upon where you go. So, like if I represent, say, some marginal guys, and I send them to Cleveland, and they just rolled the bench or played 5 or 8 minutes, I'm like, I ain't sending my guys to you anymore. So you have to do that. So that's why sometimes you saw like Dallas sat down some of their key players and some of these others to get these other kids in the game and let them show off what they can do so that they can get a job. And, there's always like the game behind the game. And some of it is dealing with the agents who represent these guys. And remember, agents get a cut of that contract from Europe. So they want their guy to get a nice deal from France, or heck, some of them go to Russia, some to China, all kinds of places.
And that way they get paid. Everybody gets paid, right?
Everybody gets paid.
Yeah. All right. So we won't be hearing from the Cavs for a while here, but they're going to be on their vacation, as will most of the NBA, and they'll be back soon. But we'll be talking Cavs as we go along on the podcast here. So send any Cavs questions you have, and we already have a few good ones. So, all right, Terry, your Faith in You column from the weekend. I was wondering what kind of response you got to this one. It was about 4 questions that we ask ourselves a lot. I think I mentioned the Artist's Way, the Julia Cameron book. I've been reading, and kind of the questions that kind of just they're like a jackhammer in your head. They keep going around and around. But you had 4 questions that you have heard people bring up a lot, and kind of how to address those. Why don't you talk about that for a minute?
Well, I really think that there are several things that come up, but a big one, waiting for the apology that's never going to come. And I guess it's just like somebody hurt you when you were a kid or whatever. And suppose 20 years later they do apologize. I almost say, so what? I mean, maybe you have like a regular feeling, but are you going to let that lack of apology just tear you up inside? And sometimes we want an apology from somebody who's dead. I mean, it's just a fact. Another one is, whose love do I want? I mean, how many of us have gone through, we're trying to prove ourselves to our mother or our father? They withhold. My mentor, Bill Glass, in Prison Ministries, talk about a parent's blessing, which is that I may not agree with everything you do, but you're mine. I love you. But for a lot of us is we're trying to get this approval from somebody, and that person may be so damaged themselves that they can't do it. And this is a tough one. Why do I let somebody else's mood dictate my state of mind? Isn't that true? I mean, if somebody in the family. And by the way, there are certain people who figured out how to get their way from you is, I will act miserable around you, and you'll just give in and give me whatever it is I want.
That's kind of the quote. I think you mentioned Kobe Altman, the Cavs president. Yeah. He said that he's talked about how people are either drains or fountains. And I think you're talking about a drain, right? About a person who's a drain on everybody.
I mean, some of us are stuck, as they say, our family's kind of like being stuck in the elevator with certain people. And we are stuck with a few drains. But some of us also are like, the drains seem to have, we're a magnet to draining people, because they figured out that we're a people pleaser. We'll do anything for that. And I just think these are questions. Finally, the last one, am I letting a troubled child mess up my family? And those are things that if you talk to people where there's 4 good kids and one's like a complete maniac, the other kids just get tired of hearing about what a problem that kid is. And one of the worst things sometimes parents say is, well, I know I don't have to worry about you. I mean, I know you'll take care of your business or whatever. It's Jackie over there. It's like, wait a minute. So I get no credit for taking care of business other than I don't have to worry about you? I mean, I'm not saying any of this stuff is easy because it all gets into a lot of the emotional and spiritual battles we have. But these are questions I think that some of us have never even said, well, whose apology am I waiting for? And if I get it, then what? Whose love do I really want? And that kind of almost falls into the apology thing. It might be somebody incapable of giving it to us. Why do I let someone else dictate my mood? And then finally, if I have, and I see this a lot with some of the older people, especially say maybe a troubled adult child or whatever, it's if you got other kids, remember you got other kids here, and they don't want to hear, oh, I don't have to worry about you.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about, and there's a lot of dynamics that go in, but the family one, it's like kids always compare each other against themselves in terms of how much attention they get from their parents, and it's important. It's important that every child, regardless of whether they're 5 or 50 or 85, it's important that your parents treat you with respect and take time to have a relationship with you. So I get that.
Even if they don't require a lot of attention, they just need to, I appreciate you. I see what you've done. And then tell them why. Just to say, I appreciate you. I appreciate the fact that, when I was sick, you took care of the 2 younger kids. I appreciate the fact that, you fixed the car, whatever it is. I appreciate the fact that through school, I didn't have to be down there every other week talking to the vice principal about, that you acted up. In fact, that you were able to get these grades. I appreciate you doing such a great job with your family, because guess what? That kid now who's now an adult and has kids is probably feeling insecure about her motherhood or his fatherhood and how that's going.
Yeah, that's good stuff, Terry. Not much time, but can have a big impact if you take the time to do it. So, all right. You can check out Terry's faith column every Saturday on cleveland.com. Just go to cleveland.com/Pluto. You'll find his Faith in You column there from last weekend. And you mentioned your newsletter, Terry. You can still sign up and get tomorrow's. It comes out every Wednesday at noon. Go to cleveland.com/Pluto. There's a blue bar at the top. I'll get it out. And you can click on that blue bar and you can get Terry's newsletter. I'll tell you how to do that. So, all right, we are ready to wrap up with some Tom Hamilton tributes emails. You ready?
Yes.
All right. Tom Hamilton, of course, is going to receive the Ford C. Frick Award at the Baseball Hall of Fame on Saturday. It's a big moment. And man, Tom Hamilton has so many fans. We really appreciate all the listeners who've sent in emails over these last several weeks. We've read many of them, and they've been tremendous. So this one is from Nick P., a.k.a. Nitro. And Nick P. says, hey, fellas, hope this email finds you doing well. I was listening to the episode on July 15th, and I wanted to finally write to share my story of a life with Hammy. My father passed away 2 years ago today. One of the biggest things we did growing up was go to countless baseball games and always watch the Tribe at home. Regardless of which way we did it, Hammy on the radio was with us. In the stadium, at the house with the TV muted, in the car driving around. I always overlay Hammy on the MLB.TV broadcasts. His passion for calling the game was something my pops and I talked about even through his final days. I've converted countless baseball fans to Hammy's phenomenal calls of epic moments. He truly is a legend and will always hold a special place in my heart for the way he calls a game and the memories my father and I shared and reminisced about over the years. Every year before the season starts, I'll look up YouTube videos of Hammy's greatest calls, and it makes me smile and sometimes even tear up. Love you, Hammy, and thanks for all of those great memories and games shared with my dad. In closing, my 1-year-old son doesn't get to watch TV, but when the Guards are on and Hammy is calling the game, he often looks over, and I can't wait to share a lifetime of Guards fandom and Hammy calls with him as he grows up. Cheers, appreciate all you do. And again, that's from Nick P., born in Cleveland and currently living in Colorado. So thanks for that, Nick. All right, Terry, you ready?
Yes.
For our poem. We got an email from Jeff Wallenfeld, and Jeff lives in Chicago, and he says, hey, David and Terry, I took a stab at a poem about Tom Hamilton. So I'm going to do my best Morgan Freeman impersonation, but I'm not going to succeed, Terry. You ready? It's called Hammy, a poem called Hammy. At the corner of Carnegie and Ontario, underway again off Lake Erie's shores, baseball in Believeland, from Hammy's lips to God's ear and yours. In the echoes of Jimmy Dudley's drawl, from lessons of Herb Score's knee, the vividness of Hammy's call paints pictures you can see. Same as it ever was, the theater of the mind, baseball on the radio, a trip through time. You learn Hammy's shorthand, celebrating both finesse and brawn. Down goes Anderson. The string is out. Track, wall, gone. Hammy celebrates great plays, no matter for which side. But a strike is not a ball, and umps can make him snide. Hammy will teach you baseball, but on a slow night in Baltimore, he'll digress about the films of Barry Levinson if the game is a mess. So whether he's teasing Rosie or shouting Rajai's blast, his insight, humor, and decency in our memories will last. And though the pastime changes, it also stays the same. Tom Hamilton is headed for Cooperstown. The world is right. Ball game.
Ooh, that is really good.
Isn't that nice?
That is really good. You got to get me. I'll get that to Hammy. He'll love that. That is really good. Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to Jeff. I'm going to see maybe if I can put it up on cleveland.com for everybody to enjoy.
I think that would be great because you know what also is nice about this? Tom's 71 and he's healthy. He wants to keep going, but you never know. You start getting that age. And to be celebrated this way when you're still alive and can appreciate it. I remember when Gene Hickerson went into the Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Tony Grossi really led the charge for that for a long time. But at that point, Gene was pretty deep into dementia, and they rolled him out there, and it was hard to know what he thought or was aware of that. And it's like sometimes, too, like I wrote when Jim Donovan was ill, and I wrote several columns about him because I wanted to write something while they're still alive and they could see it as opposed to afterwards because they're not there.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a wonderful weekend this Saturday, and CC Sabathiel will be part of the class going in on Sunday, but again, Hammy will receive the Ford C. Frick Award in Cooperstown on Saturday, and Joe Noga will be there covering it in full. So be sure to follow his coverage on cleveland.com, and Hoynesy will be in Kansas City covering the baseball team. So a lot going on if you're a baseball fan this week. So thanks for that, and we appreciate that poem. That was really a treat. So I think we're done, right, Terry?
That is it.
Okay, don't forget to check out Terry's newsletter, cleveland.com/Pluto. Comes out every Wednesday. Click on the blue bar at the top. We'll be back next week, and we will talk to you then on Terry's Talking.